Discover the incredible moment a millionaire CEO saved a collapsed girl in snow, a life-changing encounter. Jake Anderson, a self-made millionaire, sat perched in his sleek office, the winter landscape outside blanketed in white. He gazed down at the small Midwestern town he'd left behind, the ice-cold reality of success chilling his bones. The skyscraper might as well have been a prison. Each twinkling light outside reminded him that beneath the glitz and glamour of his life, he was utterly, bone-deep lonely. Wealth was supposed to be the answer, it was supposed to fill the gaping holes in his heart. But instead, he felt like a ghost haunting the lofty heights of his dreams. On this fateful afternoon, a severe snowstorm roared through town. Driving home from a high-profile meeting, Jake was lost in thought, his mind swirling with numbers and strategies. Suddenly, a flash of color caught his eye, a young girl, no more than 8, crumpling into the snow like a discarded doll. Panic surged through him as he slammed on the brakes, his luxurious car coming to a screeching halt. Without thinking, he leapt into the storm, the biting wind ripping through his tailored suit. Cradling the girl, Emily, in his arms, he saw her mother rushing toward them, her face a mask of fear. "Please, help her!" she cried, her voice trembling with desperation. In that moment, Jake was flooded with nostalgia, memories of his own childhood embedded with struggles and hardships. The mother's raw emotion cut through the coldness of his world. This wasn't just another headline, this was life, a life infused with heartache, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of hope. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The warmth of recognition quickly faded when the local newspapers hailed Jake as a hero. Suddenly, he was the outsider, wealthy, polished, and disconnected. Community members eyed him with suspicion, murmurs of dissent swirling like the snow around them. How could a millionaire understand the struggles they faced? They couldn't see past his tailored suit to the vulnerability lurking beneath. Each comment felt like a stinging blow, pushing him deeper into his isolation. Jake sought redemption, attending town meetings and volunteering his time, trying to mend the rifts in their community. But as he stood in front of the gathered neighbors, his voice quavering with passion, he heard a fellow neighbor's confession, a tale of servitude and sacrifice, fueled by love for family yet heavy with hardship. Silence enveloped the room, stretching like the storm outside. Could he truly bridge the divide between them? The tension crackled in the air as profound realization dawned: a mere outsider could become a part of something greater, or remain lost forever. The question resonated deeply as Jake glanced at Emily's family, standing beside him with hopeful eyes. Would they take a step toward understanding, or would they retreat behind walls of judgment and skepticism? The air grew thick with possibility, leaving Jake teetering on the precipice of change. Jake took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. The air crackled with uncertainty, and he could feel their skeptical eyes drilling into him. He could easily return to the safety of his high-rise office, where numbers were predictable, but something inside him urged him to stay. He wanted to claw his way to understanding, to be more than just a headline, more than a suit amidst the snow. As he scanned the faces before him, he saw not just suspicion but also curiosity, threads of hope woven into their expressions. They wanted a connection. But how could he, a man who'd known nothing but privilege, possibly relate to their struggles? Emily's mother stood by, her gaze reaching out like a lifeline, and in that moment, Jake made a choice. He stepped closer, vulnerability hanging in the air. "I may not know what it's like to struggle for food or to worry about bills," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "But I do know what it's like to feel alone, to feel like no one really sees you." He hesitated, gathering his thoughts. "When I saw Emily in the snow, it felt like I was watching a part of myself, a little girl who just needed a chance." A murmur rippled through the crowd, some faces softening, while others remained fixed with doubt. He pushed onward, driven by a desire to connect. I spent years building what I thought would fill the empty spaces in my life, but I realize now it meant nothing without the ties that bind us as a community. He looked at Emily, who was now bundled in a blanket, a small smile breaking through the worry etched on her mother's face. It was a glimmer of trust, a shared moment that sent warmth spiraling through him. "I want to help," he said, glancing across the gathering. "I'm not here to fix everything for you, but to listen and to learn. We can create something greater together." His heart raced as he spoke, each word heavy with the weight of his past and a flicker of hope for the future. A woman named Clara stepped forward, her expression guarded yet earnest. "And how can we be sure you're not just another rich guy looking for a feel-good story?" Her voice echoed through the silence, challenging yet fair. Jake leaned in, feeling every inch of his skin charged with the need for authenticity. "You're right, I need to prove it. Let us start with something simple. I'd like to initiate a community project, a place where we can all come together, share skills, and support each other. Something like a community center." The idea hung in the air, some faces lit with intrigue while others remained skeptical. Jake knew this would take more than words. Trust would be earned over time. But it was a start. As whispers of his proposal flitted through the crowd, he felt a flicker of connection igniting, something palpable and new. Just as he thought he might break through, a voice shouted from the back, "That sounds nice, but how can we trust you?" Jake's stomach sank. This was a challenge, a test. He had to face it head-on. "I'm not asking for blind trust. I'm asking for a chance for all of us to take this journey together." The tension hung momentarily, and Jake could hardly breathe. Would they step forward into the light of possibility, or draw back into the shadows of judgment? Then, a small hand tugged at his jacket. He looked down to see Emily gazing up at him, her innocent eyes full of courage. "I think you can do it," she whispered, her voice barely a breeze against the noisy world around them. At that moment, a rush of emotion flooded through him, a mix of fear and hope, driving Jake to take another step forward into the unknown. Would his gamble on this community pay off, or would he find himself retreating, defeated once more? The weight of the question lingered, a heavy cloud impending above him as the door to transformation creaked open just a little wider. Jake's heart pounded like a drum. He stood there, the weight of Emily's hopeful gaze anchoring him in place amidst a swell of uncertainty. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. Faces shifted, some skeptical, some intrigued. But there was something different in the air now, a potential crackling just beneath the surface. He felt a spark of courage ignite within him. "Let us not just talk about trust," Jake continued, "let us build it. Together." He gestured toward the church at the corner. "That space could be the beginning. A place for all of us. We can start small, maybe have workshops, cooking classes, or just a safe spot for kids to play while parents catch a breath." Clara crossed her arms, still unsure. "And what about your time? You think you'll be here every week?" "Because I've seen plenty of folks come and go based on their convenience." "I'll be there," Jake replied, his voice firm. "I can't promise perfection at first, but I can promise you my commitment. I'll show up, roll up my sleeves, and do what it takes." The fire in his belly surprised him. This wasn't just a community project anymore, it felt like a lifeline, a new direction that pulled at the fabric of his soul. He glanced at Emily again. "If a few of us sit down and brainstorm, I promise to listen to your ideas. This isn't about me, it's about us." A softer murmur moved through the crowd, a ripple of interest. Slowly, some heads nodded, but Clara remained skeptical. "And how do we know this won't leave us with empty promises?" Jake swallowed hard, feeling the truth of his own words. "Because I need this too. For every moment I spent in my office thinking I had it all figured out, I was missing something. There's a void I've been trying to fill, and I think it's here with all of you." The longing in his voice hung in the chilly air, blending with the faint sounds of the city beyond them. Jake could feel the collective breath the crowd took. A shared moment of vulnerability stirred among them. Emily's mother stepped forward, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and wariness. "And what if it doesn't work? What if we put our hearts on the line and it all falls through?" Jake turned to her, feeling the weight of her worry. "Then we learn. We adjust our sails and try again. It's not about success or failure, it's about standing beside each other when the winds get rough." A small nod from Emily's mother allowed something pivotal to shift within the group. Faces softened, barriers began to lower, and the tentative chit-chat around him grew louder. Clara stepped a bit closer, her arms still folded but her expression loosening. "Okay, say we trust you, just this once." "What's the first step then?" Jake felt a rush of excitement. "Let us have a meeting. This weekend? I'll bring breakfast. We can sit down, toss around ideas, and see what kind of project we can develop together." Light laughter broke through the tension. Jake could see the spark of possibility flickering in the crowd. A few murmurs of agreement spread, and for the first time, he felt like he wasn't just a man in a suit, but a person with shared values and a vision. But just as the mood began to shift, the sound of a siren blared nearby, pulling attention away from their small gathering. Jake's heart sank. There was real urgency behind the noise, and as he turned to see the flashing lights nearing, fear gripped him. Someone was in trouble, and he couldn't help but feel that fate was setting the stage for another test. Would this challenge bring them together or tear them apart? Jake felt the collective tension return. What awaited them beyond that siren-esque call? Jake's heart raced as the sound of screeching tires echoed through the streets, mingling with the voices that had just begun to express their hope. The crowd shifted, eyes widening, glancing nervously toward the commotion. Jake could feel the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. "Stay here!" he shouted, breaking away from the group. Instinct kicked in. He had no idea what was happening, but he couldn't stand by. He raced toward the source of the sound, the close-knit community gathering confusingly behind him. As he rounded the corner, he spotted a small gathering near the church. A girl lay on the ground, her face pale against the white snow. The embers of hope that had sparked moments ago turned to dread. Jake pushed through the uncertain onlookers, his breathing quickening. Adrenaline coursed through him. A few neighbors knelt beside the girl, one pressing a hand to her shoulder, murmuring sarcastically, "What now, huh? Don't have time for another one of your get-togethers, do we?" Jake felt anger flare, but he swallowed it. They were scared, and anger doesn't help anyone now. He knelt beside her, his mind racing. "What happened?" he asked, looking around. "She just collapsed," a woman said, her voice shaking. "I don't know why." Jake's heart sank as his gaze fell on the girl. She couldn't be older than 10. Her brown hair was tangled with leaves and snow, her winter coat lay open, as if she had just dashed outside. "Can you hear me?" Jake asked gently, brushing her hair from her face. Her eyes fluttered, she blinked slowly. Are they coming?" "That's right. Help is on the way." He turned to the crowd, his voice steady. "Can someone call 911? At that moment, a familiar face pushed through the throng. Emily. Her brow was furrowed with concern, and she knelt beside him. "I used to be a volunteer firefighter," she said, her voice steady despite the fear flaring to life within her. "Let me check her pulse." Jake stepped back, allowing Emily the space to work. With every beat of his heart, he felt the weight of the girl's life press against him. He watched Emily's hands move deftly, her brow furrowed in concentration. The crowd held its breath, a shared tension crackling in the air. "Her pulse is weak," Emily said, glancing at Jake. "We need to keep her warm. Someone find blankets." Quickly, people sprang into action, running to gather the last remnants of warmth they could provide. A few moments passed, turning into what felt like hours, and Jake's mind raced in loops of uncertainty. What if they couldn't save her? What if he had pushed too hard for this meeting and now a child lay vulnerable because of a distraction? Stay with me, okay? He murmured to the girl. You're going to be okay. Her eyes flickered shut again, and Jake's throat tightened. He felt a surge of protective instinct, the urge to shield that fragile life, to stitch together the fraying threads of community he'd just begun to weave. If he couldn't keep her safe, what hope was there for the bigger dream? As they waited, sirens wailed in the distance, a beacon of hope approaching through the chaos. But somewhere deep inside, Jake knew this was a moment that would forever change the road ahead. What would happen when the first responders arrived? Would they pull together, or would fear fracture their fragile connection? The air hung heavy with unspoken questions as the light of the ambulance flashed upon them. Could they truly come together to face this? Or would this be the test that tore them apart? Jake could barely hear the roaring sirens over the rhythmic pounding of his heart. His instincts urged him to do something, anything, but all he could do was kneel beside the girl, his hands shaking as they hovered just above her frail body. He felt the weight of the stares from the crowd, anticipation mixed with dread. They were all hoping for miracles and fearing the worst. Emily remained focused, her hands gently checking the girl's temperature. We need to fold her in blankets, Jake. She's losing heat fast, she said, her voice cutting through the panic like a lifeline. A couple of neighbors rushed forward, clutching old quilts and scarves. The community that had once felt hesitant now moved as one, a beautiful, frantic symphony of hands and hearts trying to offer warmth. Jake helped wrap the girl snugly, desperate to shield her from the cold that had crept into her bones. You're safe now, he murmured, though it felt painfully untrue. The girl's breaths were shallow, the rise and fall of her chest barely perceptible. Where was the ambulance? Time had become an enemy, taunting him with how slow it passed. The snowflakes continued to drift down, each one a reminder of the chilling reality surrounding them, but Jake focused on the warmth of the blankets, the pulse of hope he needed to hold on to. What if he began, and his voice faltered? His next words caught in his throat. He didn't want to think the thoughts bubbling beneath his surface. The what-ifs flooded his mind, threatening to drag him under. Emily was studying the girl's face, her brows knitted in concern. Jake, we can't give up on her. We need to stay focused. Help is coming. The quiet strength in her words wrapped around him like the blankets they'd just secured. In the background, murmurs erupted from the crowd. Someone pointed toward the road. The bright lights of the ambulance finally pierced through the haze of worry. Relief washed over him, sweet and bittersweet. Maybe they would pull through. As the paramedics arrived, Jake stepped back, letting them take over. His chest tightened as he watched them work quickly and efficiently. They moved with practiced ease, yet he couldn't shake the heavy feeling in the pit of his stomach. The girl lay there, vulnerable, while they rushed around her. An EMT glanced at him and gave a nod. You did good. We've got this now. Jake felt a flicker of pride mixed with despair. Was it enough? The crowd watched in silence as the paramedics continued their work, the air thick with tension. Just then, a voice cut through the night, a woman shouting from the back of the gathering. What happened? Tell us. Is she going to be okay? Her words set off a chain reaction of questions, a flood of panic. Jake turned to Emily, who clenched her fists, her eyes steady yet with worry. We can't let them fall apart. This is our chance to show them what it means to be a community. He felt a wave of determination wash over him, but doubt lingered, twisting in his gut. Could he truly inspire unity when everyone's eyes reflected only fear? The ambulance doors shut, and they began to move, but one last thought lingered. What if they didn't just need to save a girl? What if it was about saving themselves and the bonds they had almost lost? As they pulled away, leaving behind a void filled with unanswered questions and lingering anxiety, Jake found himself glancing back at the crowd, wondering if this would mark a new beginning or simply another moment lost in despair. In the distance, a small flicker caught his eye, the streetlights flickering back to life, illuminating their frozen tableau. He felt hope stirring, soft but persistent. Could the girl's fight spark a change in him and the community? Jake took a deep breath, ready to ignite that flicker into a flame, knowing that the next moments would define not just the girl's future, but their own. But as he turned toward the crowd, he asked himself, were they truly ready to embrace the battle that lay ahead? Jake stood amidst the swirling chaos, adrenaline coursing through his veins as the ambulance disappeared into the night, lights flashing like a heartbeat fading into the distance. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, each breath heavy with a mix of lingering fear and a strange, igniting hope. He turned back to face the crowd, a collective mass of concern and bewilderment, their faces illuminated by the flickering streetlights. "Hey!" he called out, raising his hands to gain their attention. One by one, eyes shifted toward him. He could see the uncertainty in their gazes but also a glimmer of curiosity. "Let us take a moment. We did something good here tonight." His voice cracked, but he pushed through, fueled by an unshakable need to remind them they were not helpless. "We came together for her. This is what it means to be part of a community." Emily stepped beside him and whispered, "You're doing great, Jake." Her words provided a boost, and he straightened his shoulders, emboldened. "What happened to her was awful, yes," he continued, searching for the right words. "But we showed that we care. Maybe that girl's fight to survive can also be our fight to reconnect, to support each other, and to heal our community." Murmurs spread through the crowd, the tension easing slightly as people exchanged glances. He noticed a few nodding, and it flicked a spark in him. "It doesn't matter how well we know each other. We have the power to make a difference. This just proved it. We stood by when it mattered. So let us keep standing by each other." The rumble of agreement washed over him as more people began to step forward, their demeanors shifting from fearful to resolute. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Maybe the darkness that loomed over them was not unbreakable after all. Then, he spotted a familiar face in the front. Martha, an elderly widow who had always been more of an observer in the community gatherings, stood clutching a scarf. She looked vulnerable but determined. Jake stepped down, walking towards her. "Martha, thank you for being here. Your voice matters." She smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with tears. "I didn't know what to do, but I felt so helpless. I'm glad I could help a little." It was more than a little, really. "You and everyone else, the blankets, the care, all of that means a lot," he said gently, his voice laced with gratitude. "Let us keep this momentum. Let us plan something. A fundraiser, a gathering, something that unites us." The idea resonated. He could see the flicker of interest spreading through the crowd like wildfire. Conversation sparked and filled the air, laughter mingling with anxious anticipation. Jake felt the warmth of change beginning to pulse within him. But in the back of his mind, shadows lingered. He remembered that girl's still form, the fragility of life that hung by the thinnest of threads. But what if this isn't enough? He whispered to himself, glancing back towards the road from which the ambulance had left, its sirens now faded into the night. Just then, a young man stepped forward, his face grim but determined. "Jake, what if we started a neighborhood watch? Something more to look out for each other." Yes, Jake thought. This was how it began, an idea, a spark. But one question tugged at him: was a simple watch enough to keep the community safe in a world so cold? He turned back to the crowd, their faces lit with possibility. "Let us make a plan together, because if we can save a girl tonight, imagine what we can do together tomorrow." The murmurs transformed into excited chatter, but as Jake focused in on the small cluster of hopeful faces, uncertainty gnawed at him. Were they ready to face the deeper issues lurking in their lives? He took a deep breath, preparing for what lay ahead. The next chapter in this story of transformation was just beginning, and he could feel that the discovery of purpose was painfully near. But would they stay united when the storm truly hit? The excitement in the air buzzed like static electricity, and Jake could feel it reverberating through the crowd. He glanced around, noticing faces that had once been filled with fear now sparked with determination. This was more than just a response to a tragedy, it was a call to action. Together, they could be stronger, brighter. What if we create a community forum? Martha suggested, her voice quivering with urgency. A place where we can share concerns, ideas, and maybe even invite local leaders to join us. Jake could hardly contain his applause. That's a fantastic idea, Martha. Her voice rang out clearly, pulling others in. Let's vote right here and now. Who wants to start a community forum? Hands shot up, some tentative, others eager. Each face radiated a spark, a realization that they were capable of more than just standing idly by. Emily chimed in, let's put a date on the calendar. A monthly meeting to keep the momentum going. We can gather resources and brainstorm. Laughter peppered the air, filling spaces that had once been marred with uncertainty. Jake felt hope blooming. It was tangible, like the first sign of spring after a long, harsh winter. He stepped back, giving room as others began to cavort through the idea, and trusting their visions for how they could redefine their neighborhood. Yet, even amid the erupting enthusiasm, Jake's heart raced with anxiety. He remembered the girl, the haunting image of her stillness. But we can't just meet, he interjected, his brow furrowing. We need to act. What do we really want to change? I want to make this place safe again, declared a burly man with a fervent passion in his eyes. We shouldn't just watch over our community, we should create safe spaces. The chatter quickly swelled, voices mingling into a storm of ideas, a neighborhood watch, safety workshops, emergency response training. Each contribution built upon the last, creating a tapestry of possibilities. Let's not forget about the kids, another woman piped up, her hands clasped together. We can organize activities, something to bring everyone together, a block party, movie nights in the park. They need to see us united. Jake felt it, the collective pulse of the crowd working together, igniting a shared purpose that thrummed through him. Laughter, kindness, camaraderie. It felt contagious. Does everyone agree? Jake asked, his heart racing as he prepared for the response. It was a declaration of their willingness to change, a bond for the future. Yes. Came the thunderous reply, punctuated by clapping and cheers that pierced the night air. Fresh determination surged through Jake, but his joy was layered with a deeper worry. What if this energy faded away? What if the problems they were aiming to tackle were more complex than they realized? He could feel them lurking in the shadows still. Then, just as he found himself lost in thought, it hit him deep in his gut, that growing sense of urgency. What we're doing tonight matters, but we need to talk about the tough stuff. The real stuff, he urged. What happens if we fail to tackle the challenges, the dangers that exist out there? We can't shy away from the truth of what is happening, our hearts and lives are intertwined with this. The crowd shifted slightly, a wave of apprehension creeping in. They chewed on those words, not quite ready for the hard conversations they needed to have. It's okay, we don't have to answer all of this now, Jake reassured, raising his hands as a sign of solidarity. But this is a start. This is us choosing to stand united, ready to fight back against whatever comes next. Whatever darkness looms, we face it together. As he watched them mull it over, he knew this was only the beginning. A small voice at the back of his mind questioned whether they could hold this together when real struggles arose. The wind whipped through the street, carrying whispers of doubt, yet hope crackled in the air, alive and vibrant. Jake stood at the intersection of a path about to branch out in multiple directions, unsure where it would lead. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was undeniable, a storm was brewing, and it wouldn't wait for them to catch their breath. Would the community still stand strong when their true test arrived? Jake stood at the front, absorbing the energy swirling around him. It felt electric, like the moment just before a lightning strike. People were shifting and talking, their faces a mixture of determination and uncertainty. He could sense their fear, but it was tied together with a thread of hope. Just then, a voice broke through the buzz. Why do we always have to wait for someone else to save us? It was a young girl, not more than 12, standing on a nearby bench. Her eyes blazed with intensity. If we want things to change, we have to change them. The crowd quieted for a moment, drawn to her. Her words were a spark, igniting something deeper in everyone present. Jake felt a swell of pride as the murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. "Yeah!" shouted Martha, her fists clenched tightly. "She's right. We can't just talk about it, we need action." Encouragement washed over Jake as he clapped for the girl, feeling the rhythm of their newfound unity grow. "Let's make plans, right now. If we're going to establish this forum, we need to set clear goals. Let's write down the challenges we want to tackle." Jake's heart raced as he snatched a large pad of paper from the table nearby. He began jotting down words, his handwriting fervent. Safety, community events, neighborhood watch. Others crowded around, each calling out ideas louder and bolder than the last. All at once, the fear that had haunted the group began to dissipate, replaced with an urgency to take charge of their circumstances. As they brainstormed, Jake's thoughts drifted again to the girl. His chest tightened. What if they didn't succeed? What if their efforts somehow led to danger rather than safety? "Martha," he called out, pulling her aside amid the commotion. "Can we really keep the excitement alive? I mean, when things get rough, when we face real challenges, will we flinch and hide like before?" Martha sighed, glancing back at the crowd, which continued to generate ideas that danced in the air. "We need to build something that lasts, Jake. We can't just be motivated by fear or tragedy. We have to keep it personal, build relationships, find purpose." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of her words. They couldn't just be a community that reacted, they had to become something stronger, something like family. Suddenly, the older man who had voiced the desire for safety earlier stepped forward. "We need to reach out to our neighbors who didn't come tonight. Some of them are struggling more than we know. We can't do this without everyone." The crowd nodded thoughtfully. One by one, faces illuminated by ideas of inclusivity began to glimmer with a sense of responsibility. "Let's make sure everyone feels included," Jake added, his heart swelling with determination. "This isn't just our forum, it's for everyone who loves this community. We'll go door to door with flyers, invite them in. Anyone who has lived here has a voice." A new level of excitement erupted. Ideas rolled into plans, and plans into actions. Jake felt the heart of the crowd beating as one. But just as he started to take a deep breath, a familiar chill ran through him. What if once they opened those doors there would be resistance? What if others rejected their vision? Suddenly, from the back of the gathering, a loud crash echoed. Jake turned sharply to see a group of teens struggling with a box of old decorations that had just toppled over. As the crowd turned to help, the air felt electric once again, not only from their willingness to act but also from the looming shadow of potential chaos. As the laughter and action enveloped them, Jake's heart pounded. What comes next? He whispered to himself, aware that they were only at the beginning of a very long journey. Looking down the path ahead, he wondered, how will they handle the aftermath of their willingness to confront the truth of their challenges? Would they adapt quickly enough when real threats began to surface? Jake's thoughts swirled like leaves in the wind, caught between hope and doubt. He watched as the teens struggled with the fallen box, laughter mixing with the sound of it hitting the ground. The moment felt both chaotic and warm, a reminder that even in disorder, connections could be forged. He let out a breath, trying to still the restless thoughts in his mind. "Hey, it looks like we've got some extra hands." He called out to the people nearby. "Let's pitch in and make this place safe and ready for everyone to share their ideas." People gravitated toward the teens, a team forming in the midst of disarray. Jake felt a rush of excitement. Maybe they weren't just talking about change, they were living it. The crowd joined in, lifting the box and sorting through the decorations, laughter replacing the initial embarrassment. Once everything was back in its place, the energy shifted again, and so did Jake's focus. Okay, let us not forget why we're doing this. This isn't just about our little gathering tonight. This is about the community we want to build. He could see the eager faces ready for action, but doubt nagged at him. They didn't yet know how deep the waters might get. As the crowd dispersed slightly, Jake took a step back and scanned the room. The mix of emotions, anticipation, anxiety, enthusiasm left him feeling unmoored yet alive. Then, he caught the girl's gaze again. She stood by the wall, watching with clarity in her eyes. "Care to share your name?" he asked, walking toward her. "I'm Lily," she said, her voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of resolve. "And I mean it when I say we need real change. Not just a forum, we have to fight for what's ours." "Fighting can come in many forms," Jake replied. "But you're right about one thing. We need to channel that energy into something that lasts." "What's your idea?" Her eyes narrowed, filled with passion. "We organize groups. Some for younger kids to learn about our neighborhood. Others for adults to share skills. And we make sure everyone knows their voices matter." He felt a chill run down his spine, not from fear but from the vision she sparked. That could really unify us. Imagine people sharing meals together, families exchanging stories. Those connections exactly. She interrupted, her enthusiasm contagious. "It's not just about meetings. It's about changing how we see each other." Her words stayed with Jake, swirling around with the energy of the crowd and the scattering decorations. But then, a thought jolted him. But what if it doesn't work? What if people don't show up, or then we keep going, she declared, her conviction as bright as a sunny day peeking through storm clouds. You can't fix everything in one shot. It takes time. The crowd's murmur began again, they were regathering, eyes on Jake. "All right, what's next?" he called out, igniting a wave of voices once more. As ideas began to flow, Jake felt a sense of purpose wash over him. This was, somehow, turning into real change. Yet, at the corners of his thoughts lingered shadows of uncertainty. Would those shadows deepen once they set their plans into motion? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside, shattering the warmth in the room. The laughter died down as everyone turned to the windows. Jake's heart raced. Were they still safe? What was that? Someone whispered in the back. Jake felt his hands clench as he stepped closer, his instincts sharpening. "We need to check it out. Stick together, everyone." As he led the way, uncertainty gnawed at him. Would this confrontation bring the unity they sought, or would it shatter their dreams? The air felt thick with anticipation as they moved toward the door. And just like that, Jake understood, what came next would be the true test of their resolve. What awaited them outside could change everything. Jake pushed through the door, his heart racing as he stepped into the crisp night air. The snow crunched underfoot, the world around him a mix of uncertainty and quiet intensity. The sound had come from the alley beside the church, a shadowy area now lit with scattered streetlights. "Stay close," he called to the group behind him, aware of the tension palpable in the cold. They moved together, a unified front, as they cautiously approached the alley, where the sound had echoed ominously. As they reached the entrance, they found the source a dumpster had tipped over, cans tumbling out like discarded memories. A couple of teenagers moved hurriedly, their expressions caught between embarrassment and relief. Jake recognized them. They weren't the scoundrels one would suspect, in fact, they had been a part of the neighborhood watch conversation just days before. "It's just us. Sorry, we didn't mean to scare anyone," one of the boys called out sheepishly. Laughter erupted behind Jake, cutting through the tension, and for a moment, they were all just people in a snowy Midwestern town that had shared fears and laughter, creating ripples of connection. Jake stepped forward, his heart swelling. No harm done, guys. We were all just getting ready to take charge for our community, so your timing is interesting. The crowd chuckled, the shared moment lightening the previous weight of anxiety. Jake turned to face them anew. You see. This is exactly what we mean. It's about connection. Even in chaos, we can find laughter and understanding. Emily stepped forward beside him, grinning. How about we turn this into a community event? You all can help us move those decorations back. What if we started a fun night every month? Lily chimed in, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Cheers overwhelmed the alley, as Jake felt the warmth of camaraderie envelop them. This was it. This was what they had been yearning for: connection. But then doubt crept in, heavy like the snow draping the ground. Would they be able to sustain this spirit? Jake's heart fluttered, but he plastered a confident smile on his face. Let us keep this vibe going. There will be hard days ahead, sure. But if we can laugh together now, we can rally together later. Just like that, the gravity of their private struggles seemed to shift, lifting the weight off their shoulders, if only by a little. The festival atmosphere continued to swell, and in the face of uncertainty, hope burned anew. They were beginning to weave their stories together, stitch by stitch. As they moved back towards the church, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of possibility that hung in the air, crackling like static. At this moment, among all the chaos and fear, they were becoming something bigger. Something real. Days turned into weeks, and with every gathering, Jake witnessed the town transform. Families shared meals, kids played games, ideas flowed freely in the new community center. Each gathering fostered deeper relationships, connections once dormant now blossoming in community gardens of shared stories and laughter. Jake's heart danced with joy. He was no longer just an outsider, he felt roots begin to stir. It wasn't always easy, and the past didn't just vanish, but together, they faced each hurdle with new resolve. One crisp night, standing in the glow of fairy lights strung across the park, Jake addressed the congregation of neighbors who had become like family. Thank you all for believing in this community, for trusting me, for trusting each other. We've come so far, from meeting about a little girl to creating our neighborhood's heartbeat. The crowd roared with applause, smiles mirroring the warmth blooming in his chest. Martha stepped forward with a small box. Jake, we'd like you to take this. He opened it to see a small plaque, for the heart of the community. His eyes misted over. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Clara chimed in, with a teary smile. This is just a reminder of who you are now: a leader, a friend, part of us. Jake felt a wave of emotion surge within him: gratitude, pride, and love. What had started as a chance encounter in the snow had morphed into a transformation not only of his life but of all their lives. They had faced uncertainty together, and through every setback, they had grown stronger. So this is just the beginning, Lily exclaimed, bursting with enthusiasm. What comes next is our story to write. The crowd erupted in cheers, hearts thrumming with excitement for the future. Hope resided where once there was doubt, and Jake finally grasped the true meaning of community: a web of connections strong enough to weather any storm. In that moment, he understood the beauty of togetherness, and how looking after one another could change lives, keeping each heart warm even on the coldest nights. With the last remnants of winter drifting away and spring just around the corner, Jake felt excited for everything that lay ahead. This was more than a rescue, it was a rebirth. So, now that you've followed this journey, there is something important we ask of you. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and ignite transformation. Leave a like now, feed that algorithm and help us soar. Comment below your thoughts, your reactions, and your feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to make an impact. This is the moment to show your support and remind us that we are all in this together. Don't wait not even one more second, act now.